I have the greatest social media following, but it's known for that. Other people will tell me like how envious they are, how you guys always back me, how you realize I'm the linear champion, how you realize I'm the one that retired Jon Jones, that I'm the one that ripped his toe off. And I gotta tell you, I got lit up. I got lit up last night. I got challenged. I got called the F word, not the one that ends in an R. I got called the other F word multiple times. And what do you call that on Twitter? Where you DM somebody and it goes to a box and you have to accept, well, DM, right? Talked to Joel this morning. Joel gives me the business too. Now, this all has to do with a piece that I made and put out yesterday, Sunday, about Rajah Jackson. And Joel even says to me, man, he's disgusted. I can hear it in his voice. I mean, I've known Joel 30 years. Like, he is legitimately disgusted with me, of which is a word that he actually used. I'm disgusted. And he goes, I know why you did that. I know why you took his side. You were trying to be controversial and get clicks, but yeah, you're on the wrong side of this. It was an attempted murder. And he's going on and on. And much like the people in the DMs and much like the people that I heard from on social media, you didn't see the piece. Yeah, I mean, it's about an 8 or 9, 10-minute piece. And what you're describing is about 8, 9, 10 seconds. So I let Joel yell at me. And he telling me, he said, that's an attempted murder. And I said, all right, Joel. I said very calmly like this, I'm acting this out for you. This just happened. I just hung up. I said, all right, Joel. I said, if I would have called the police from a payphone anonymously and told them that I saw you do that in a 7-Eleven parking lot, you would have been in handcuffs hours ago. He goes, yeah, that's right where I belong. I said, oh, okay, but in this case, it's on video. The police are in possession of the video, and they have not made an arrest. That is the talking point. Attempting to understand why is the entire talking point. And the psychology there is very fascinating, of which judge, jury, and executioner has decided they got the evidence, they got the premeditation, because Rajah said, I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit him for real. And there's a video in the back of one of the wrestlers that's lining this whole thing up that tells him, get your receipt, hit him for real. Just do it in the ring. Before that, there's a gimmicked can of beer busted over Rajah's head. Rajah tells his live stream, for 50 subs, I'll knock this guy out. Something along these lines. Well, what you just described is every wrestler that was on the card that night. Every single wrestler hit the opponent they had, whether you won the match or lost the match. Every opponent took a fist, threw it at him for the entertainment of the crowd. Supposed to be controlled working shots is what they call this. Rajah was throwing potatoes. But your idea that you have all the evidence that you need and you can prove premeditation, which escalates this, by the way, from an assault to attempted murder. And all the evidence that you need, you've got. Because Rajah himself told his live stream that he was going to do this. And he was going to do it to seek retribution for the disrespect he was shown for being hit with the beer can. Once again, before we get into whether I saw exactly what you saw, but before we get into that, we're discussing it from a standpoint, okay? And you always have to remind people of this. You do not get to go arrest Al Pacino for selling cocaine and chopping people up with machetes because you just watched an episode of Scarface. You don't get to decide as the viewer where the show ends and real life begins because you're so skilled and talented that a good worker doesn't have the ability to fool you. And I'm going, yeah, but John Cena just did that. He just did that it sold 80,000 live seats that booed him on Monday night, and by the pay-per-view on the weekend, we're cheering him. And what I'm sharing for you is that if you're in the position of the police, before you go in guns blazing and throw a guy down because of a professional wrestling match you've seen, you do not have a choice but to speak to what you were declaring to be the victim and say, what do you want to do? You agreed to have this guy that's never done a match that you were told on video is not a worker, which means he's not a wrestler. He's never done this. You said, put out the video of me busting the can over your head, let people know, and come get your receipt in the ring. Now, I understand that no reasonable person, we're talking about Psycho Stu here, who, by the way, is a family man, he's a veteran, wonderful guy. None of us are led to believe that he thought he was going to get his jaw broken and his teeth knocked out. But that is a very common thing for a professional wrestler to tell somebody that's never done it before. Hey, I don't know how to throw a working shot. Do I open my hand? Do I pull? Do I hit my, I don't know how to do this. Hey, don't worry, just hit me. I'm a professional. Just throw the punch. I'll roll with it. It's quite literally what the Big Show, just by example, and this happens all the time, but by example, this is what the Big Show told Floyd Mayweather. We're not going to work and we're not going to practice, and this isn't what you do. I'm for it, but just throw the punch. Just throw the punch, Floyd. I'll roll with it. Trust me. It's what I do. And he didn't. And Floyd busted his nose. How would you like to be hit by the world champion with no glove on when you're letting him do it, right? Could you imagine? Mickey Rourke, friend of mine, did a WrestleMania. And he did a spot with Chris Jericho, a friend of mine. And Mickey came in during the day to work out the spot. And Jericho said, hey, listen, don't even worry about us working it out. Just hit me. Just throw the punch. The only way we're going to make this really look real for the crowd is if it is real. Hit me. And Mickey explained to him, hey, I've actually boxed professionally. I don't want to just hit you, and you don't want me to just hit you. But I'm sharing with you that this dialogue happened, and I was privy to it. When I tell you that this is a very normal thing that they do, great. Your response to me that you watched a live stream and Raja wanted clicks, or your response to me that when the whole thing was over and you saw how hot and angry he was, and he admitted to, I'm going to do this, I'm tired of guys playing with me, and all the stuff that he said, you don't get to decide where you're all of a sudden the smart mark sitting in the front row. You don't get to decide where all of a sudden you're Vince McMahon in gorilla position and you know the difference between a shoot and a work. You just don't get to do that. And I'm sharing not as a way of yelling at you. I'm yelling in front of you. If you're wondering why the police, who are in possession of what you claim to be a premeditated murder, and we have an injury and we have really bad shots on a guy that's down and allowing his body, I'm telling you why the arrest hasn't been made. And you can like that or not like that. But there's no part of that is on Raja's side. And as good actors, as people, we are whoever we pretend to be. So you will get really good actors that will go into a movie set for 90 days. And it's a Western movie, and all of a sudden they come out and they're done. They're done. The show is wrapped. No more horseback, no more six-shooter, no more cowboy hat. And they go home and they're talking with a twang. And they just forgot, yeah, I've been doing this for 90 days. And it takes them a minute to unwind. And when you have a good worker, and let's say that Raja is a natural, the absolute best thing that he could do to get in character is to sell it to you. The problem is you begin to sell it to yourself, and that's the accident. That's absolutely the accident. You begin to sell it to yourself. And where is that line? I don't know how to go into this ring, and I don't know how to do this, and I've never done it. Now, on the other side of it, I didn't know you out back, and we were in a parking lot. And I'm a street fighter, and I was raised by a street fighter, and you hit me in the head with a can. Which means if I have an evil and dark side, I could do almost anything under the sun to you right now in this moment. But he didn't do that. He waited and he agreed to go to the ring. And in many ways, that makes what we saw, if in fact the intent was to hurt somebody, it makes it that much more disgusting. But it also takes away from your idea that a young man snapped. You don't have the ability to decide when you're a smart mark or you're just a mark. And it's why there hasn't been an arrest. It's why Joel yelled at me, and it's why you guys left me nasty comments. But the only one that can decide that is Psycho Stu. That's the way this will work. If they go in and they cuff up Raja over a piece of entertainment that they saw, and the public gets informed that it was such good entertainment, even the police were duped. And that has happened a number of times, particularly in the uneducated southern white males that got professional wrestling and NASCAR, which, by the way, is also scripted, off the ground. I'm explaining to you whether you like the explanation or not. That is why he has not been arrested.